Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Daemonhunters is not only an extremely long name, it's also the latest 40k strategy game from Frontier. It essentially takes the turn-based strategy and the overworld gameplay from Xcom, but puts a little Warhammer twist on it. So the lovely folks at Frontier were kind enough to let me play a few levels of the game early, so I thought I'd let you know exactly what I think and explain a little bit about how the game works to help you work out if it's something you'd be interested in. Of course, the game build I played was in early access, so there were a few bugs here and there, but nothing major, and there are still 4 weeks until release, so I've got faith. Also at the moment, I'm only allowed to show the gameplay from the missions, so I can't get into the character customization just yet, but let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see, and I might come back to it in future. So if you've never played a modern Xcom game, this is all going to look really confusing. Why do the characters sit still and let themselves get hit without moving to cover? Well, the combat works in a turn-based system, meaning the player takes all of their actions and the AI takes all of theirs, and aside from specific abilities, both sides are limited to acting only on their individual turns. This causes the combat to be almost chess-like, where you need to plan out the next few turns and think through multiple outcomes to ensure yourself the victory. On your turn, you take control of 4 members of a squad, and each member has a very specific role. The Apothecary is your support/healer, with several abilities that allow them to heal themselves and other squad members, as well as provide buffs and debuffs across the battlefield. The Interceptor is your high mobility melee specialist that can teleport across the map, as well as deal devastating damage in close quarters. The Purgator is your heavy weapons guy. He has the biggest gun, and generally is dealing the most damage from a range, as well as having a couple of abilities to assist with this. And the Justicar is another melee specialist with less mobility, but more utility, allowing him to buff himself or allies to give them an extra edge in combat. Aside from their role-specific moves, they can also move, shoot, provide overwatch, and hunker down to reduce incoming damage. You can also crit with certain attacks, giving you the option of several things, such as stun an enemy, disable their weapons or abilities, and more. On top of all of these actions, they can also overcharge most of them to produce different and often more powerful effects. For example, you can cause an attack to deal more damage, a heal to grant more HP and action points, and many more depending on the action. You can only use these buffed actions so many times, however, as they require WP or willpower to use, and this can often run out very quickly if you overuse them. You may have also noticed the percentage at the top of the screen. Now this is the warp surge bar, and it slowly fills up over the course of your missions. It can be rushed to the top by certain enemy abilities, and once it reaches 100%, one of many nasty effects are going to drop onto the battlefield and normally make your job a lot harder. A couple of examples I've seen are granting enemy attacks imbued effects, dropping certain effects on your squad members, and spawning enemy units from rifts. Basically, these effects are never good for you, and they encourage you to wrap missions up quickly and take out any units that can accelerate the charge speed. Now for the types of missions you'll be taking on. In the preview I played, I got to try out 2 mission types and 1 boss battle. The first mission required me to extract seeds from enemies using melee attacks or destroy them completely. Collecting the seeds would give you a bonus to research on the overworld, but it's harder and risky to pull off, so there's a bit of a trade-off there. The second mission required me to clear out Bloom Spawn, which is essentially really high levels of Nurgle corruption. This one was a bit more fiddly, as it required me battling through different waves of enemies, including a couple of extremely powerful tank units, before I could get close to the Bloom Spawn, and right as I was about to cleanse it, the game crashed. I didn't really have time to replay the entire thing, so here we are. Now the final mission versus Aegir was a pretty bloody arduous one, and I only just managed to beat it. And also bear in mind that previews like this turn the difficulty down to make it approachable for people not as familiar with the game, so with the game on full normal difficulty, this guy would likely be a pretty tough fight. For stars, the guy himself is incredibly tanky and does a ton of damage with each of his attacks. There are also multiple nests of Nurglings spread throughout the map, as well as them spawning from him, which deals steady damage to your squad, as well as protecting, healing, and even being used as weapons by the big guy. To beat him, I had to clear out the nests and then get up close and personal to critical strike and disable some of his abilities to prevent him from healing, and allow me to whittle him down over my many turns. On my final turn, 2 of my lads were 1 hit from death, and the other 2 managed to just about finish him off with their final actions. And the final thing we saw in this demo was a cutscene of your ship performing Exterminators, which, if you're not familiar, wipes out an entire planet and all life on it to ensure corruption cannot spread throughout the galaxy. Classic good guy move. So my thoughts on the game. After all that, what do I actually think about it? Well, as someone who sucks a tremendous amount at Xcom, this was a lot of fun and relatively familiar while still feeling like its own thing. You're not going to pick this up and think you're playing Xcom, it's very much a Warhammer game through and through, from the UI, to the characters, to the actions, everything is Warhammer here, baby. Now, I didn't get to play any of the overworld where you navigate the map, customize your squad, and complete research and crafting, so I can't speak about that part of the game, but from a purely combat perspective, I would say it's about as approachable as Xcom, with a few differences. There's no percentage chances to hit enemies, so you can't be as mad at your terrible luck. But there are a lot of different extra systems to keep things nice and complex. The classes all feel distinctly different, and finding the right one to use at the right time can be a lot of fun and very satisfying when you work it out. Of course, I played on easy little baby difficulty, but I imagine when you turn the game up to even normal, you're going to have a very challenging game on your hands that will have you with your head in your hands at least once or twice a mission. So overall, I had fun and will be interested in playing the full game once I see what the overworld gameplay is all about. If that's good, then this is going to be a pretty great Warhammer experience. That's just about everything I have to say about WH40K which honestly isn't even that much faster to say. Let me know what you thought of what you saw here in the comments, and if you'd like any more content covering it in future, leave a like if you did, and subscribe if you want to see more content on all sorts of different strategy games. I'd like to take this last little bit of time to thank all supporters of the channel, like Adam T and Dominic Shamas, and of course Henry Tucker for his support at Mount Cleveland's tier. If you'd like to support the channel yourself, you can do so here on YouTube memberships, or over on Twitch, and of course on Patreon. One more thank you to every single supporter, one more thank you for watching, and for now, I've been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I will see you next turn.